we have to talk to our higher aspects. We have to talk to God. We're supposed to, because and all these other beings are just our team. We have a team. Each one of us has a team of higher beings that are souls, part of our own soul families, perhaps ascended masters, angels, who connect with us to help us. And that's, we're all supposed to be working with those. Those are who guide us through this life and support us energetically by sending the frequencies that we need to grow and expand and prosper and be happy.
Susan, thank you so much for accepting my invitation to appear as a guest on my podcast. You're a channel, a healer, and a teacher. You communicate with souls and beings who are not in physical form, whether that's your clients' higher self, or their spirit guides, or their guardian angels, or ascended masters. You're also an author of a beautiful book, New Tools for New Creation, and I love the title of the book because it speaks about creation, not manifestation, but creation. You're teaching readers how to become the creators we came here to be. So we'll talk about that a bit later in our conversation, but we can perhaps first talk about your role as a channel. So for people who are unfamiliar with the concept of channeling, what is channeling, how does it work, and what happens during a channeling session?
I'm going to show a little bit because sometimes I go right into channel, which means that the information comes through me to answer the question in the best, most perfect current way that I can, most accurate way that I can receive it now at my current level of evolution. So if I start talking in weird languages, it's part of getting the answer, and then I'll translate it into English. Channel is just a form of communication. It refers to my energy field being attuned to the high frequencies, very high frequencies, non-physical frequencies of beings that are in non-physical form, or they're not in what we would call form, material form. They are non-physical beings in higher dimensions, which means, what is a dimension? Well, it's a range of energy frequencies within which you can perceive frequencies more or less close to you. For instance, people say we're in the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension now. And what that means is that there's a certain range of frequencies, like octaves on the piano, for instance, or octaves in music, or the spectrum of light that you can see in a rainbow. Those are ranges of frequencies, right? They show up as color, they show up as sound. But we all know that there are high frequencies that we cannot hear with our physical ears, and there are frequencies, colors, light that we cannot see with our physical eyes. So channeling just means that a part of me, my energy field, we all have an energy, we're all made of energy, our bodies are made of energy, and around us and within us is this field of energy frequencies that pours through us constantly. That is what is our life force. Without it, we wouldn't be alive. And we can change the frequencies. This is what it's really important for people to know, that this is how we grow spiritually, how we become and how we create. We work with the frequencies of those of the energy pouring through us. So I've been working for decades with my energy field, and now, and I have multiple guides and ascended masters and angels and archangels and whoever, star beings. I channel beings from the stars who are close to the earth right now, who've come to help humanity at this moment to kind of make a big leap forward in consciousness to save us and the planet. And so that's what channeling is being able to communicate between those higher dimensional beings and human beings, to give human beings access to the wisdom, the teaching, the guidance, the support, because in higher dimensions, those beings have access to the universal mind, we could call that, or the source mind, or the spirit, the quantum field. There are many words for it, but it's the source of all life and has all information, contains all information. Because this life, all lives, everything that ever happened has already happened. And we are just walking through it, slowing it down in our perception to create a perception of time so we can have experiences. We can go into that at another time. Anyway, does that answer your question about what channeling is?
Yes, yes, yeah. I mean, it certainly does. So, I mean, the souls and beings you connect with across dimension are, you say, star beings and ascended masters, guardian angels, spirit guides, and
Human souls, also human souls who are no longer in their body, their physical form, even if they're, wherever they are. If someone here, this is an important piece of the work I do. I help people heal from the loss of someone they loved and never got to say goodbye to, or they're worried about. And I've helped a bunch of people, many people help, whose partners or children or grandchildren or whatever died suddenly, either by suicide or just by an accident or something that, and they never got to, or at a distance, and they never got to have that final conversation. They can have that conversation through me.
yeah.
Even if they were there present when they died and they still have questions afterwards. A friend called me a few weeks ago and said, my mother just died. I went to visit her and I didn't know she was that sick, and suddenly she died. And I said, oh my God, how horrible. I'm sorry that you lost her. And she said, yeah, can you help me talk to her? I want to ask her some questions.
Oh.
And I said, okay, sure, I can do that. And I thought, this is not a normal conversation. This is not a usual conversation. It's a privilege to be able to help people with that sort of healing.
Yes. Well, I had a channeling session with you, and so my intention with sort of having a channeling session with you was more actually to gain some clarity on some circumstances that I've been dealing with. And there was really the difference between me before the channeling session with you and the me after the channeling with you was like sort of night and day, in the sense that I had all sorts of doubts and fears about. I mean, I do have the habit every day of talking to my spirit guides and asking them for help and guidance. But when you're very emotionally sort of invested in a situation, that inner knowing can be drowned out or sort of clouded by fears and doubts. And is this wishful thinking? Is this my ego, mind chatter? Or is this really guidance from above? And so during my channeling session with you, in part, you essentially confirmed to me what I already knew on some level of my being, but again, that level of knowing was clouded by sort of doubts and fears. And in part also the information that you communicated to me, or the answers and the guidance, was new. But I felt so relieved after. Really, I mean, just an ocean of peace. I mean, it was...
Because when we have that peace, that inner peace, that's when the energy can flow freely through us. And you're absolutely right. The thing that blocks our well-being, our health, keeps us from creating what we want, is mostly fear or trauma or doubt, anger that we're holding over some situation we didn't resolve. Those kinds of emotions that we would call negative are just low frequency energy, and they're what we want to be perfectly healthy and connected and able to create just really easily everything we choose, is to have a full and free flow of energy, to have a full channel, to our channel to receive. We all are channels. We all channel energy all the time. That's how we live. But the clearer that we can be, the more we can heal the past and release it and receive our guidance and feel that peace and be happy, peaceful, joyful, have fun. All those things, those energies open our hearts. What happens is it opens your heart chakra. It opens all your chakras. And because fear closes down our chakras, fears, doubts, sadness, grief. So when we clear those, and then it's easier to choose. We choose our vibrations, we choose our emotions, whether we're aware of it or not. So very often we're not aware of it, and it's just old thoughts that are choosing, old thoughts and old beliefs we learned from somebody along the way, or things we believed about ourselves that make us feel sad. And they close our chakras. And so not as much energy can flow through from our higher self. We're fully connected all the time, but we can't always access all of the energy available to us from within.
Yeah. I love that you say that we're all actually channels. Like, it's because growing up, I'd often you hear this a lot, sort of in a part of the world where I live, that X person is a channel, he or she was gifted with this, this talent or this ability. But no, actually, we're all channels, except that we're all not maybe necessarily as open and aware of it.
Yes. Sorry, I live in Argentina, so once in a while I slip into Spanish. That's right. Okay, now I lost my thought. What was it? What were you saying about?
That we're all channels, actually, not just a few handful number of people, special people.
Right, we are all channels, and the example I like to use is something like being a triathlete. Anybody who has a reasonably healthy body, has legs, arms, is reasonably healthy, could presumably train to be a triathlete. Or if they have a reasonably normal voice, they could train to sing opera, even if they were never going to be a star. But most of us don't do that because we're not called. You have to have not only the ability, but the passion if you want to dedicate the time to fully opening your channel, if you want to serve others with that. But just use it for yourself. It still takes time. I mean, I can't do someone else's spiritual work for them. There is that the healing and the clearing belongs to the individual, and only if they're willing and want to, and they're willing to allow, can they achieve that. But if you clear your own channel, then I don't want people to think they depend on me, they need me. I mean, I can help, and I love to help, and I don't know if everybody likes to have help, but I certainly have had help in my life on my spiritual path. It makes it easier, faster, and less lonely. And that's to have someone walking with you and saying, oh, I've been through that, or this is the explanation for what you're experiencing. All that makes it just easier, and more joyful. But you can also, you have everything you need within you, and what you need is just to heal enough to receive that awareness of who you are, why you're here, what you really want to do, and become familiar enough with how that shows up in you, how you feel when you're connected to your true purpose, your true calling, the passion that you feel. Just kind of orient yourself, and then you can go with it. Then you can receive, and
So I love what you just said, actually, so how do we, what I notice when I observe myself is that sometimes when I listen to someone, I just sort of get a bit of a download, for want of a better word, as to why they might be going through a certain circumstance, what they're learning, what's going on. But when it's myself, I find it much more difficult. And this is actually where it helps to sort of see a medium or channel. But perhaps for starters, I mean, how can we become a channel for ourselves? Or where does that start, the process of becoming a channel?
Yeah, let me ask that question, because I don't have an immediate answer. And it's always best to ask within and get the highest level of understanding that I can at this moment. Where does this, right, ask me the question again, where does the process of becoming a channel start?
Yes.
How do we start?
Yes, how we begin.
How do we begin? You start by looking within. You start by feeling within, into your heart. They want me to tell you the story about how I started. So I was in my mid-30s, and I had a very traumatic childhood, so traumatic, abusive, that I did not remember until I was in my mid-30s the things that were happening to me, because they started before I could even speak. So I had no way to process or tell anyone. And I just developed a mental mechanism for protecting myself from all this information I couldn't process. So I started remembering those events, which explained a lot to me about, I was a mess, you know, emotionally, and my life and everything. And I began to understand why. And that was the first step to healing all the trauma I had. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I was seriously traumatized. And this was, of course, took a process of years. During that time, I had grown up in a religious family, so I was always connected. I always was connected with him. I kind of always knew that I felt a connection at that time to Jesus. I felt that strong spiritual connection. Okay, so the next thing that happened in my life was then my ex-husband and I were getting divorced. And it was very traumatic for me because I was the one who initiated it, and I felt very guilty about it. But at the same time, I needed to make that move in my life, that change. So every day after my children were little, they were in elementary school, and every day after they would leave for school, I would sit on my front porch on a porch swing, and I would read, because I was raised with, as a Christian, I was raised with the Bible and the gospel, and I felt closest to Jesus. I would read a little bit of the gospels, just the part where it actually was about Jesus saying things. And then that was and now I know that was attuning my mind and my energy field toward the spirit, right? And then I would pray, and I would just tell Jesus and the creator, which I called God at that time, now I call it source, the whole, whatever pain and suffering and fear I had at that moment, everything, because I found if I tried to go into meditation, my mind was too busy cranking around all these things, because every day there was something else I was really focused on. So every day I'd say, here's what's on my heart, here's what's in my mind, and then I would listen. And that was I was never taught that as a child. We prayed. We weren't taught to listen. And you think about it, prayer and meditation are two halves of conversation. If you talk to somebody and you never sit and listen, it's not a conversation, and you never learn anything. So I began to listen. And that's what my guides, these higher beings, wanted me to say. Find a way to quiet your mind. There are many, many people who can teach you to meditate. I can teach you to meditate. There are many resources online. But meditation is really a process of quieting the left brain, which is the intellectual, the human intellect, the human mind that it analyzes, collects data from the past, analyzes it, projects it into the future. Sometimes that's very useful. Sometimes for guiding our life, not so much, because we don't want to create in the future what we already created or experienced in the past. So it's a way of finding a way to quiet the left brain. And I use, my favorite technique is to imagine that as my inner child, as a 2-year-old, because when my children were little, I learned that anytime I would put my attention somewhere else, they would start acting up to try to get my attention. So I just have the little child self, left brain, the human mind, be a little child sitting on my lap and ask it to help me observe, just help me watch and listen, because it gives it something to do. And then I ask a question. Asking a question is very effective because it creates a vacuum. And as we all know, nature abhors a vacuum. So if you ask a question, you're inviting the answer to come to you. And it might come to you right then. You might hear words, or you might feel a sensation, or you might have a vision. Or when you're beginning, very often it doesn't, you don't get an immediate answer. Even I don't get an immediate answer. And I've been doing this for decades. Sometimes. But the answer will always show up. It'll show up later through some other person. It'll come to you through some book or movie or TV show or whatever it is. Or later, you'll just wake up with a thought in your mind that answers that question. Mm-hmm. So that's how you begin. Meditation, meditation mindfulness is very popular now, but it's beyond mindfulness. It's listening. Mm-hmm. Having the other half of that conversation, and it's with your source. Your source is within you. So it's the higher aspect of you. We're in this body, but we are not not all of us is in this body. Our energy, we are much bigger beings. We are beings, higher dimensional and multidimensional beings as well. So we've just projected a little part of our energy into this body, into this personality. We've created the persona, and we've done it for a reason. And that is often why people need to learn to open their own channel, because it allows us to find out, am I on the right path? What am I doing here? Or, who am I really?
Yeah, what it is that with the answers to such prayers or to such questions, again, it's sometimes quite difficult, depending on the circumstances, to associate, okay, is this just me making this up, my imagination, or is this really sort of guidance from my higher self, from source, from, yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another tip. Well, for one thing, that is why it's helpful to have somebody else. Like if I have a question, it's very emotional for me.
Yeah.
And I can't perceive the answer. I have a friend who is a channel.
Yeah.
Channel's an angel, and I just send her a message or call her and say, help me with this, would you please?
Yeah.
And I have people who call me and ask me the same thing, because it's true for everyone that our emotions cloud especially fear and doubt cloud our ability to receive. So when I was starting, and even now, like so this is fun. I can feel in my body. The first signal I got that I was really connected and getting something from Jesus, from these higher beings, was chills. I called it the spiritual chills. It's that shivery feeling in your body. And that is what happens when your chakras open up and you start receiving the flow of this higher frequency energy through your heart chakra and maybe through all your chakras, creates that feeling. There is also, our bodies are like antennas. See, our bodies are really important to this whole process. Our bodies send and receive energy signals. So through the right brain, and so I talked about the left brain. Well, the right brain is the part that is always connected, aware and receiving information from this higher aspect of ourselves and from the source. But our societies have, our education systems, we've been taught how to cultivate and train the left brain, the intellect, the human intellect, but not the being mind. I like to say that we are humans and beings. We are beings in a human body, mind, heart, personality, emotional body. And we're really well trained in how to be the human part and how to use our human mind, but we're not well trained in how to use our being mind. And the being mind is essential for setting the direction we're going, for telling us what's the point and where am I headed? And anyway, just receiving that higher guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first ways you can begin to know you're receiving information, you're receiving from the source or from your higher self, is through that chilly feeling. Mm-hmm. If you're hearing words, try placing your attention on your solar plexus. The heart chakra feels the flow of love and light. I like to lead people into meditation through the heart chakra, because you're connecting in through love, and that is safe, and it's loving, kind, safe, and it's harder to make a mistake, I would say, because if you're just going in through your mind, you can hear different things, and it's hard to know what's true. If you're going in through your heart, you feel. It's hard to feel into what you're receiving. So when I especially early on, when I was hearing words and I didn't really know for sure if that was my mind, my human mind, or my higher mind, one way I knew was they would resonate. I could feel a kind of like a really subtle vibration in my solar plexus, in my body, in my heart, or my solar plexus, when the words were coming from not my human mind, but my higher mind. Also, my guides and my higher self were really good about using words that I would not normally use. They used kind of archaic language sometimes, or they put the words in a different order. It just didn't sound like me. And they did that on purpose, because I was asking one time, I talk so funny. And they said, well, if we didn't, you might not know who you were really hearing from, you know? So they do that. So as a signal, they try to help us. And if nothing else, you can ask for a sign. Like, you can send me a sign to confirm this is what I think is true. Send me a sign to let me know that that's true, or send me a sign about which direction to go. If I'm trying to, this is a lot of speaking about this one subject, I hope it's all right. If I'm trying to make a decision, another thing I do, and these are tricks, things I learned really early on in my process. I used to go hiking in the woods a lot. And when I lived in Northern California for a time, and I was surrounded by forest. And so I would go hiking, and sometimes there were old logging roads in the woods, and sometimes I wasn't sure which way to go. And what I do is look at one path, look at the other path in the other direction, and then which one would sort of light up, seem to have more light, or I would just feel drawn toward one. I would just ask which is the best way to go, and then I basically feel into both of them. You can do that. I also do that with decisions. You can place in your mind one option, visualize one option, visualize the other, to which one is the best direction for me to go at this time. That's what I try not to ask yes or no questions that have a yes or no answer, because it's too easy. The human mind it's like a child, and in a way, it wants to please, it wants to take care of us, it's trying to protect us, it thinks it's responsible for keeping us alive. And if we're looking for an answer, it'll try to come up with the right answer. And that's why it's really important not to to quiet it, and not to ask just yes or no, because it'd be very easy for the mind to guess, and you don't want to guess.
Yes, I think also sort of when the body feels expansive versus contracted, that's perhaps also a way actually of knowing which way to go.
Yes, when you feel relaxed, when you feel an expansion, yeah, exactly, very good.
Yes. I know that in religious circles, they sometimes say, because when I speak about talking to your spirit guides or guardian angels, or have a channel communicate with your spirit guides and guardian angels, some say, well, who are we as human beings to get in touch directly with, say, I don't know, Archangel Michael or the archangels or ascended masters? When we do pray or speak to guides, we actually draw to us lower beings or sort of dark entities. That message has never resonated with me, but is there any truth to that? I thought I'd just ask you while we're speaking about the topic.
Best answer for this question, but it's a very good question. There is fear around that. When you're talking to us, meaning your guides, your guardians, your angels, your higher self, the source of the creator source, you are not drawing in darkness, you are drawing in light. You focus on the light, on love, focus on what you want to receive, which is light and love and joy and happiness. Those lower entities cannot intrude. They can come in when you're afraid. There are beings, non-physical beings, less attuned to the light, attuned to lower frequencies, let's say. And it's easy to see them as dark beings, entities, whatever. They exist, but they have no inherent power of their own. They seek to steal energy from other beings, basically. They seek to create fear, and then they can live off of that. So you don't have to fear them. If you ever find or feel that there is one attached to you, because sometimes, it's like sometimes we get a virus, right? They're like that. They're like I have a friend who calls them energetic bugs, they're just pests. They're pests. They have been given way too much power through people's fear. We don't need to give them any power. And as long as we're just connecting through love to our spirit, our own spirit, and the spirit of divine love in all. I call the beings that I work with it. I have a blanket term that is higher beings of love and light. Those are the only ones I want to communicate with. I have dealt with the others. They can be dealt with. They can be sent away. They can be disconnected. You can be cleansed of those. Not my favorite work. It's not the most fun, you know. Sometimes our homes or places of business need to be cleared because there's something hanging around there, you know, just like sweeping it. You clean it physically the same way. You need to clean it energetically too sometimes. But they're like that. They're just like that. And if somebody, you know, once did something that sent you one of those, and there are people who deliberately send those to other people. You can deal with it. You can have it dealt with. It's not a big deal. It is just, it's like going to the doctor and having you know, taking medication or having a mole removed or something like that. Minor. Yeah. So don't be in fear, and but Edie, who are we to talk to? We have to talk to our higher aspects. We have to talk to God. We're supposed to, because and all these other beings are just our team. We have a team. Each one of us has a team of higher beings that are souls, part of our own soul families, perhaps ascended masters, angels, who connect with us to help us. And we're all supposed to be working with those. Those are who guide us through this life and support us energetically by sending the frequencies that we need to grow and expand and prosper and be happy. For our health and well-being.
Yes. And to keep us on the right path, so to speak, sort of the...
Because and if you get off path, don't worry about it. There's no judgment. That judgment's all in our minds. Nobody else is judging us, and we're not to judge ourselves, because if we do, that is another way of blocking the free flow of energy through us. So forgiveness of yourself and love for yourself is very important.
Yes. So you speak in your work also about 0-point energy and 0-point healing. What is that? What's 0-point energy?
0-point energy is the source energy from which everything flows. Everything is created. When it is energy in motion, takes on physical form, it takes on individuated, it's the individuation of source in higher dimensions and on Earth as human beings and as plants and animals, and everything that exists comes from that original energy. So that source energy has every frequency we need for perfect health, because in our bodies, every cell has a perfect resonant frequency, and they're all distinct. And we have an overall energy signature that's kind of like a symphony, you know, made of all these different notes of all these different frequencies. But if there's a problem in the body that we want to solve, or we want to change we have to change the frequency of that part of the body. And the source energy has the perfect frequency. It can attune every cell of the body to its perfect resonant frequency. Now, having said that, if you're sick, or you have an injury, that something has become physicalized already, you need to take whatever physical material steps you can. You need to heal that physically, medically, in any way you can. And at the same time, it's really important also to get our energy to heal whatever emotional wound has made that energy off resonance, let's say. Because what happens is, if our hearts are shut down because some traumatic, painful event happened in this life or in any lifetime in the past, sometimes we bring these emotional blockages into this life as a part of our plan because we want to heal those. And then something occurs in this life that makes that pain arise to our conscious level, and then we seek healing for it. Well, so if you, for instance, have your heart is shut down, it could over years, you're really diminishing the flow of energy to that part of your physical body. So you're healing. So what needs to be healed is the physical form, which very often you can use some medical healing for, and it's very important. I would never claim that you shouldn't do that. And at the same time, you need to heal the heart, that wound. You need to heal that emotional wound or that spiritual wound, because that's what weakened that part of your body. What happens if you have a diminished flow of source energy through a certain part of your energy field, which then manifests or physicalizes as your energy body, as your physical body. When the frequencies of energy become low enough and become the right resonant frequency, they form the physical body. If you don't have the high frequency energy, the life force flowing through easily and fully through some part of your body, eventually it weakens the body. So that you may get heart disease, you could get lung disease, you could fall down, and maybe one time you fall down and nothing happens, and another point you fall down, you break a bone, because that part of your body was more vulnerable. Nothing may have changed except that there's a diminished flow of energy. So whenever you've got any kind of physical complaint, you need to use both of those methods, because if you don't, you could physically heal something, medically heal something, and then later have either the same thing back or a different ailment, disease, or injury in that same area, fed by that chakra that is closed down.
Very interesting. And you've helped people heal from phobias and addictions and allergies also.
Most of what I do is the emotional. Sometimes, very often, or always, there is a physical result, reaction. Our emotions create physical effects. Let me say that. Go on for a long time. They're momentary, no. But, if we carry them for a long time. So I have helped people recover from phobias, I had help someone get over smoking. I had someone who couldn't find a house to live in because they were so sensitive to mold, and it was caused by a traumatic childhood situation. And these are situations that very often have roots in past lives or in our childhood. So my method to do that, so understand how this works, it's not magic. I connect in through my heart and my mind, and I connect into my higher self and guides and the source, and then connect to the corresponding self and source and soul of the person I'm working with. And I ask to see, first of all, what happens is they send through this light language that really attunes the energy body of the person I'm working with so that they can receive more. So first they get just a tune-up of their entire energy field and physical body. When that stops happening, the energy stops flowing because I use my hands and it comes out as light language. Then I ask to see the original cause of whatever this situation is that is acute enough that this person says, help me get rid of this. Let me heal this. And it takes a few minutes to focus. And every single time I think, oh, what if I don't see this? What if I don't hear this? And every single time it takes a few minutes. And then I start to get an image and I start to see what happened. And I start to understand the connection. And I tell the person what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. They may be so deeply into their meditative state that they don't hear me, but I tell them afterwards if they didn't. And it explains it. It'll be something that is like a metaphor for their fear, their phobia, for instance, is a reaction to something that happened in childhood or in another life that they're not consciously aware of. So it makes no sense. It's out of context. But when you see where it came from, then it makes perfect sense and you understand it. And then I actually move that energy. I channel through the energy to heal that emotional wound, to lift out the pain, to heal the energy field, the soul, heart, and mind. And afterwards, it's gone. It's gone. I mean, I've had that experience with clients. In fact, I've never actually worked with somebody that didn't work for.
Oh, that's interesting. And what is sort of the light language that you sort of vocalize when you channel? What is that?
Light language. What is light language? What's the best explanation for what light language is? It is the language you yourself are speaking all the time from your higher self, your higher non-physical aspect, to your soul, to your human self, your beings, the being mind in your human being self. Light language is the language of your soul and your individuated source self, the part of you that has that spark of the divine, of the creator, of God, and that is expressing its unique expression through you and through every lifetime you've ever had, every aspect of yourself. So we don't speak English or any other human language when we're not in human form. This is the language of those beings, and different beings who are, if you think of the source as the sun, just, an image of a sun, and then every ray of light, it goes out, they go out in all different directions. We're like a ray of that light. And each one is individuated, which means they can have an individual character, personality. They've chosen different dimensions, different stars or planets or whatever in this dimension, and in the ones that we can't see, there also exist stars and planets, I'm told. So they can speak different languages. I've heard some people say it's the root language. I have spoken different light languages. And to communicate with each other, when you're in those higher dimensions, there are energetic ways that they communicate with each other. But that's what light language is. It's one of those higher beings. It's the same thing as speaking in tongues. It's just a different word for it. And it used to be that you have to be in a high frequency state to receive. I didn't always speak light language. Maybe 5 years ago, I just started spontaneously coming out of my mouth. And there are now a lot of people on the planet speaking it. And that used to not be the case. Sometimes I think, am I really making any progress here? And then I can always remember, well, yes, I didn't always speak light language, and now I do. So things have changed.
Yes. I mean, I'm not at a stage yet where I speak a light language. So yes.
When if you need it, if you're ready for it, if you are at that, it'll just start flowing through you it's just a matter of attunement. It's just a matter of the frequencies flowing through you at that time.
Yes. Okay. And so yes, I wanted to also sort of ask you about your book, New Tools for New Creation. So I had a couple of years ago, I had a moment where I was just sort of in an argument with God and my spirit guides. So, it happens sometimes. And, the question that I kept asking was, okay, why do you keep breathing sort of life into me? Why do I breathe? What's the whole point of it? And the answer that I got was simply to create. And that's our purpose. We're here to create. And so you channeled a book, this was a number of years ago, I think, New Tools for New Creation. And what I love, because we've all read The Secret, we all know of The Secret, and I've read throughout the years so many books on visioning, manifestation, the law of attraction. But the thing is that it just, you explain in your book actually what the difference is between creation and manifestation or manifesting. And what you do in your book is that you explain, there's actually a chapter in your book titled, what was the title again? Learning to see yourself as creator. And I love that we speak about creation instead of attraction, manifestation, or manifesting, but creation. So what is the difference, would you say, between creation and manifestation, or the law of attraction or manifesting?
Well, I confess that I have not read this for a while. I mean, I've read it, last time was maybe a number of months ago. So I have to ask, because I don't remember everything I channeled. Because in this book, I'll tell you, well, first I'll set this up. The book, I was living in, there was a time in my life where I was house sitting for different people. I didn't have a permanent home. I was house sitting in, no, I guess I was actually renting an apartment at that point in Mexico. But it was a very low point in my life, very low. And, those arguments with God, like, why am I alive? Why am I alive? Right. And this was 2017, and we were always going through, like, in the sort of online alternative spirituality community, people were always hearing that we were entering the new age, the new world, the new earth. And we were all creating this new earth together, which we are. But the process took much longer and is still taking much longer than anybody at that time really understood, or that many of people did. So this was 2017. And I was expecting big things, big improvements. And the January 1st, I woke up and I just started hearing this book. I don't remember what they told me to sit down and start writing, but I did. I just started writing in a notebook. It is an ebook. It is short. It is easy and fast to read, but every word, I didn't do any like editing, or like now I'm teaching and talking and then I channel. This was pure channeling. It was just exactly what and over a few days, this book emerged. Every chapter was like full of information, new perspective, and like, what is that energy is consciousness. That energy is conscious, and that's why you can direct it and tell it what to do, and it responds. I've never heard that before. And how we create using energy templates and flowing our energy into it. And that was a new teaching. Like, maybe other people have received that, but I had not heard it before. So one thing was, think of yourself as a creator, learn to see how you are creating. Okay, so let me ask, what's the difference between what would you tell me today, which could be different than you told me in 2017 or than I heard in 2017? What's the difference between manifestation and creation? We're so delighted you've returned to this question. Take a look at it, because we want many more people to understand the answer, Pedro. Okay, now they're showing me something. They're showing me a person like standing at a window, kind of projecting energy out. Just lines of energy. Manifestation is like this. You're reaching out and you're trying to attract with a particular frequency a car, a home, a person, a job, a specific thing that your human mind thinks will make you happy. It's not that you don't need these things or have no right to create them, because you absolutely do. But creation is not centered in the left brain ego mind. And this is what is missing from that explanation of manifestation. Who is guiding the manifestation? Oh, that's the answer. Who's guiding the manifestation? If it is the higher mind as spoken through the right brain, received, then it's something that's going to give you joy. It's the right direction, let's say. Okay, so as creators, how do we work? The key to successful creation is to ask for your highest good, to ask for the right path, to ask for the way that will bring you the greatest joy, the way that will bring you the greatest joy. Because it's probably not necessarily what your left brain thinks it is. It may not be the specific person, the specific car, the specific home, the specific job. All those are important categories. Okay, so people tell us that if we want to create something or manifest something, we have to be very specific about what it is. But what if we don't actually know what it is exactly? That's where you're defining your path. And you don't try, the problem is people try to define their path from their left brain, from their human mind. Instead, quiet your human mind and ask your higher mind, your being mind, what is my best path forward in this situation? I need a new place to live, or I need more money to pay the rent, or I need a new way to make a living, or I'm just not happy with what I'm doing, or I'm not happy in this relationship, or I am successful in every outer way, but I don't feel satisfied. Whatever the situation is, express it and ask to be shown. And those steps will begin to come to you. Ideas will begin to come to you. And you focus on the idea where you feel most, that gives you the most joy. You focus on what inspires you. You feel passion, you feel joy, what will be easy and fun for you. And it may not always be easy in the outer sense, but it'll feel easy because it's on your path and you will be shown the steps to take. And then the specifics come later as you get closer, where that home should be. What are things that are important to you in that home, for instance? Well, that comes later, but just make sure that the left brain, the purpose of the left brain, the intellect, the human mind, is to carry out the steps. The purpose of the higher mind, the being mind, is to set the direction. So let the higher mind, the being mind, steer the ship, set the direction, and then past that information flows right into effortlessly into the left brain, and the left brain starts working on it. Does that correspond pretty much to what you remember?
Yes, no, I mean, I do, I mean, you do sort of, you have a chapter, in fact, titled sort of the power of asking questions, you know, and which you say is beautiful. Instead of asking for that object or experience which carries the energy of powerlessness, ask what you can do to bring it into your experience. Thus, you identify yourself as creator. So yeah.
I had forgotten that, which is not to say that it's any less true. It's all different aspects and different levels of truth.
Truth, yes. Well, that's beautiful. And then when you offer one-on-one sessions with you meet with them or you work with them one-on-one. But you're also currently preparing a program, I think. You're about to launch a program.
I am. I offer a variety of services. My website is called zero-point energyhealing.com. If you go to zero-point energyhealing.com or susanrensberger.com, which is pointing to that same website, you will find me. And the services there include channeling, just a sort of general session for healing, or it could be connecting with a loved one who's gone on, or spiritual coaching. There's a variety of ways those are just really examples of how the channeling of your higher self can be applied to your life, right? So depending on what you're looking for, you can have a one-off session. But now I'm putting together something new because I've noticed that clearly people do not take huge leaps in their lives in one session, right? It often solves the immediate problem, or sometimes maybe you need two sessions, but depending on the problem. But most often people come, they get their solution and they go. And they make advancements in their lives. But, you know, I have just gone through a period where I felt very stuck, like just a wall in front of me. And like I've come a long ways, and yet there were very deep traumas that I was not aware of yet that were holding me back because out of fear of fully being seen and heard and expressing myself in my instance. So I'm putting together a program now that is a package of weekly sessions where we can connect. Every one of them is guided by your higher self, your soul, the source. I just do that thing I described where I lead you into meditation, they attune you, and then we first of all, we talk about what it is, you know, where you want to start. But the goal is for you to know yourself, for you to have access to all the information that is within you, to know yourself, to access your life path, your purpose. Where are you? How are you doing? Healing all the things that are blocking you. That is one of the biggest things, and that'll take several sessions, I imagine. And getting your direction about what to do next. And you know, if there's unresolved emotional business with someone who's moved on, or with someone in this life, you know, working on all that, clearing your channel. It's really clearing the underbrush. Really, that's what it is. It's like clearing the channel. Like if you've ever seen those old-fashioned lamps, oil lamps, you know that as the flame burns in the middle, it creates smoke, and then the chimney gets covered by smoke and the light can't shine through. Well, the healing is a process of clearing away the soot from the residue of smoke from the chimney, so the light can shine through you clearly, and you can see and hear and know better where you're going, and you can make major progress. That's my goal for this program. Is it's a 4 or 6 weeks, and I have those options because it's a brand new program, and I want to know which people are going to want, what's going to serve them best. I'm giving a big discount. If you take the 6-week option, you're saving almost $100 per session, $590 some in all. And because I want feedback, I want to know, maybe you prefer the sessions to be 2 weeks apart to give you more time to integrate the changes, and I want to give you a list of questions to answer to help you gauge where you are and what the changes are, to help you be aware of changes that you're experiencing in your life as we go along. And so with your feedback, and you'll be collaborating with me on refining the program. But that's the nature of the program. It's 4 weekly sessions or 6 weekly sessions, and you can read about it on zeropointenergyhealing.com or susanrensberger.com.
I see.
And if you want to take, because if you want to experience what a session with me is like first, before you decide, make a commitment to that, you can schedule an individual session. And if afterwards you decide, yes, I want the package, I'll discount the full price of the full regular price from your package price, and we'll just proceed. That'll be the first session of your package. Otherwise, that's it.
Yes. Oh, yes. Well, Susan, any last words of wisdom from you or from the higher beings you channel?
Okay, let me first say, we talked a lot about new tools for new creation. I should tell you that you can get that ebook for free by joining my mailing list at either of my websites, susanrensberger.com or zero-pointenergyhealing.com. You can download it for free. And now I will ask, you know, the great thing about this work, these beings, is they live and work at a very much higher dimension level. One of the best things you can do when you got out of a situation you don't know what the answer is, ask to see it from that higher perspective. I do that, and they just kind of lift me up, and I can sort of see like I'm way above the earth, and I start to see solutions I never would have thought of. So they also can connect into all the people who are not only listening. Well, now nobody's listening now because it's a podcast, right? So it will be online indefinitely, and people can tune in indefinitely, and those beings they know who all those people are. So if you're listening to this at any time, your guide's already online with you. And so we're connected. So what I'm going to do now is just ask for all to receive the frequencies that will benefit everyone who ever listens to this podcast. That's a big blessing. They're showing me kind of like an enormous umbrella over the entire earth, raining down golden light. To bless everyone involved in this podcast, everyone listening to this podcast. You are all loved. You are all blessed. You are all held in light. You are all held by the divine. You are all important and essential aspects of the divine. Humanity would not work without every one of you. So never think you aren't important. You are. You are essential, and you are on your path, and you are expanding, you are growing, you are discovering, you are becoming, and we are holding you in security, material security and safety as you grow and as you expand, so that you can focus on your joy, because joy, follow your joy, as people have said so often, and because it's your signal that that is your true calling, your true path for this life. Many blessings, infinite love from the divine all.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Susan, because if we all knew, if we all felt reassured that our material needs for safety, security, a roof over our head, food on the table, etc., were met,
Yes.
we'd all get out of survival mode and just be creators. Yeah.
And I myself spent years in survival mode, and I know what that is, that insecurity, that fear, and it's just blocking. All it is blocking the free and abundant flow of energy that is our nature and our right and our birthright.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Özlem.
Thank you. Thank you for pouring your life force energy into this podcast.
It's a great privilege. It's so much fun to be a clear and open channel for the divine. That's what I ask for every day, to be a clear and open channel for the divine, and it's my greatest joy. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.